We are here to talk about HydroFlo gutter covers and how they work and what you can expect with them if you decide to get them for your home. I would say these are about 2 to 3 years old, and you can see the buildup on top of the gutter cover right now is actually doing its job. It hasn't rained in a while. We really haven't had any major storms, but that's all it takes for this stuff. It's very, very dried out and lightweight, so a good rain, it will blow right off. If this is something that's gonna bother you, think about not having it and where all this is going. It's falling into your gutter. The next heavy rain, it's flowing all the way downstream, and it's gonna block the hole, and your gutter is gonna overflow. So you can clean the top of this off every once in a while, or you could just let it go. But if it starts to build up enough where it's bothering you, you're cleaning it off one time every so often, every couple of years, versus cleaning out your gutter 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the type of trees you have around your house. There's no perfect gutter guard out there. There might be a perfect gutter guard for a situation. Your neighbor is gonna say, use these, it's the best stuff, but does your neighbor have pine trees? Does your neighbor have maples? It all depends on the coverage on your house. You should ask somebody who has done this for a very long time, somebody with experience, what type of gutter helmets or covers I should get. Do you want a HydroFlo that sits flat on the gutter? Do you want a helmet? A helmet would work good on this roof because the steep pitch, the bigger leaves fall on top, it will blow off. But then you get that springtime fall where the groove of a gutter helmet could potentially get clogged and you find yourself with a paintbrush brushing it out. So there's gonna be pros and cons to every style of gutter guard. Anybody who's telling you you'll never have to clean out your gutters again is either misinformed, heard that from someone else, and doesn't have the experience to know that's not true in any case. If your neighbors never cleaned out their gutters ever after getting gutter guard, it could be because they have no trees overhanging their house and their gutters are always gonna be working great. Ask your gutter guy, ask a professional, what's gonna be the best option for me with what I have working. Maybe you have some really, a long roof going up and down with some inside valleys. That water gets, channeled into that inside valley. It's gonna overshoot that inside corner. You might want something that's allowing the water to breathe a little bit better. Then you're gonna say, well, what about that corner? Is it gonna get clogged? Yeah, there'll always be a level of maintenance in that inside corner. You'll have to clean it out. But think about if you haven't had that. You're cleaning it out 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the coverage of trees over your house, versus tending to that one spot, cleaning it off, maybe with a stiff paintbrush. In this case, for here, this is great, a leaf blower, and you could blow it right off with a leaf, one this way, one that way. And then you say, well, what if I, don't feel comfortable getting up on a ladder with a leaf blower? The whole point of me getting covers is so I don't have to do that. You're right, but also the other point you're gonna want the covers is because you don't want to have to call somebody consistently to clean them out. Now you have your gutter covers, you notice an issue with the buildup on an inside corner, you don't feel comfortable going up there, maybe your landscaper or gutter guy come out and tend to that one spot, so instead of paying for a full gutter cleaning, you could spot treat. And worst case scenario is you find out it's overflowing the top of the gutter. That's great, it's not overflowing and going back into the house, it's coming over the top. So if you go long enough and never tend to this gutter cover, the odds are it will always look similar to what you see now, but in a different spot. So one day you'll get a good windstorm, this blows off, and then all of a sudden the stuff's down here, it falls down over here. So it's gonna be similar to what you see here, but it's gonna be consistently changing. This is a very basic, straight down, no curve, no insides or outside corners. So this is what you see is what you're gonna get with this particular spot. Stuff will build up on top, it will fall off, it will build up in another spot, in another location. But this is what you can expect. This is all it takes to land in your gutter. It almost becomes like cake-like, and it builds up and it forms, a drain cover over the outlet, over your downspout. And it forms right over the top, and then it starts to overflow on the low end of your gutter. With this gutter cover, it's going to push this stuff off, it's gonna keep it out, and this is your worst case scenario in this situation. It's dried out and it's blowing over the top versus clogging your gutter after one rainstorm of this getting washed all the way down to the drain. And if you have undergrounds, this could be going into your undergrounds and clogging them up, which could even cause bigger problems. I always recommend putting gutter covers on if you have an underground system and a lot of trees, because you're gonna keep all those leaves and debris out of your underground system. I think my favorite gutter cover in this particular situation is the HydroFlo. because this is doing its job. A lot of gutter helmets have a groove where the water comes down and along the groove, and that will work for a good amount of time, and it's still a good option, but you might find yourself in certain spots having to brush out that groove or having somebody to come and brush out that groove, which is still better than having somebody to come out and clean out your gutters 3 or 4 times a year, depending on how many trees you have. So in this situation, I think this is the best option for here, the HydroFlo. If you only have a tree that's maybe in the back far side of your yard, wind can still blow those leaves onto your roof. But in a situation like that, where the tree is 20 yards away, you can go with a cheaper option that's gonna do its job at keeping out those bigger leaves from making their way to your roof. But if you have a lot of overhang, you're gonna wanna beef it up with something like HydroFlo, which is kind of like a 2-part system, like a heavy metal frame with a mesh over the top. That's gonna work best for your option, for your situation. If your house has a lot of icicle, gutter helmets will contribute to icicle. They kind of make that worse. Doesn't mean that you have a problem necessarily, as far as, people panic, I have icicles coming off my gutters. Well, it's better to have the icicle coming over the top of your gutter than going back into your house. So your gutters will be clean, but every once in a while you'll find yourself with some icicles. And if it's over an area of concern, you should address it. Increase your attic's ventilation can help mitigate icicling. Some people like to use heated wires. If that's something that's worked for you in the past, or somebody, you could try that. But if you do not want to see icicles, I would recommend going with something that allows the water to breathe more freely. What happens is the melt from the snow and ice come down the roof. As soon as it hits that gutter, which is colder than everything else, it freezes. Then you get more water coming over the top of that freeze, and before you know it, it makes its way over the top, and you whacking it with a broomstick to knock it down. My house has gutter helmets. I'm not bothered by the icicles, but it's not in a situation where it's going to hurt somebody. We see them, we kind of think they're cool. People ask, well, what if I have to get inside to clean these out? That's a very popular question. The best part about these is they're installed in, I want to say, 4-foot sections. There's 3 screws. You pop them out, you lift it up, you can get in there. You really shouldn't have to go inside these gutters ever again. The only time you would have to go inside is if the ends weren't closed properly. Birds love to come in here. It's like a condominium for them, especially on the high end of the gutter where the water's flowing away from them, so they stay dry. That would be the only time you really need to maintenance these. The gutter helmets, you're more likely to have to pop off because that groove gets clogged, stuff goes in. You get enough stuff inside, it forms something similar to these, like little cakes that could flow over to the outlet tube and block that up. But that takes some time to happen, but it could happen. But then in that case, same thing with the helmets, a couple screws over the front, you lift it up, you can clean it out. All right, well, I hope I helped you make an informed decision. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm Craig at Mattsson Roofing.